Hi and a very warm welcome to this video. Today I will talk about these types of Steadicam. What I have here is the Schwebi SC. There are other Steadicams like this one, like the Steadicam Merlin, and I think also newer made one of these. And these types of Steadicams get advertised to smartphone filmers, which are much smaller than this one, but they practically function the same way. I will now tell you a short story about this Steadicam. I got this Steadicam when I was 14 years old. I just wanted to have a Steadicam to make those great tracking shots, and I was really excited to get this one because back in the day this was the only Steadicam I was able to afford when I was 14. It cost me around 80 euros and it was a Christmas present. I shot with this Steadicam for many years, far too long in my opinion. Why? I will show you now. Classic Steadicams are a rather old design. They were invented back in the 80s. This is a newer design and it didn't catch on, and I can tell you why. You see, what I have here is a real Steadicam design. It's a newer /Relino Steadicam and it features this type of gimbal. This gimbal is much better because it rotates in many different directions, and especially it compensates for the up and down movement you make when you move forwards, as you can see here. These types of Steadicams only compensate for this and this movement. What they don't compensate is the up and down movements, so you won't get a stabilization on a very important axis. I will now show you some test clips I did on this type of Steadicam with the old GH2 and the Olympus 1240 f2.8. I chose this setup because neither the camera or the lens are stabilized, so we get the pure stabilization performance of this Steadicam. As you can see, it's not very stable. I didn't apply any post stabilization, so you can get a pure picture. And even if we compare this stabilization in comparison to no stabilization at all, I will now show you a clip where I just hold the camera in hand and move it around, and you can see it's not that much worse. The Steadicam gets rid of the micro jitters you get when you just hold the camera in hand, but I don't see much of a difference. And to prove my point even further, I will now show you a comparison between this Steadicam and this Steadicam. As you can see, it's not really a competition. This one clearly blows this one out of the water. You can see the movement is much smoother, even that the GH2 does not have any stabilization at all. You get much better performance. You can go even so far and use this setup as a vlogging setup. It looks like you are on a gimbal on a modern camera. I see what they wanted to achieve with this Steadicam. They tried to make a small and very compact folding type of Steadicam that you can just use with any small camcorder. It came out when camcorders were very popular. But nowadays we have a very strong competition. We have gimbals which are also very small, and I think that you shouldn't get this type of Steadicam at all. The performance of the newer Steadicam is much better, and also the price is not that much different. You can get this type of Steadicam for around 30 euros. The Relino one is about 40 to 50 euros, so I think those extra 20 bucks are worth it. But if you already have this type of Steadicam and want to see how to balance it out, I will show you now. Keep in mind that this Steadicam is not able to support big cameras and heavy lenses. I chose this setup because it's the smallest setup I have. It's just the GH2 with the Olympus 1240. Together they are not that heavy, they are pretty light, and There is also a version with a Manfrotto plate, but this one just screws directly onto the camera. You have to find a good point where the middle of the camera is. If you have a smaller lens on the camera, you might have to move this screw 1 or 2 steps forwards. You can now compensate this axis by unscrewing this knob and moving around. And you have those weights down here. You use these weights to compensate for this axis. You put the weights down and see if the camera leans to one side or the other, and you compensate by moving the weights to the other. So if you are straight, you can do some sort of drop test. You just let it swing, and the weights won't swing more than 3 times in each direction. If it swings too much, you can move the weights upwards, like I did with this setup. So, and now, as you can see, it's less than 3 swings, so we are balanced out. As you can see, it's quickly balanced out, but I think the missing axis for the up and downwards movement is just not that good, and you can't use it, in my opinion, for any professional use, but you also won't get the performance you get from other Steadicams. Another big flaw is that you are not really able to turn the camera. You can try to move it with your fingers, but it's very stuttery, and every time I used the Steadicam, I never touched it with my other hand and tried to move it with my hand. I think it's also a bad sign that the whole Steadicam moves if you move the gimbal, because that's not what's supposed to happen, but anyways, it happens. I used this Steadicam on my first feature film, which was also shown in a couple of cinemas, and I didn't use it very often, but this Steadicam was part of my toolkit for a long time, and I'm really happy that I moved on. I now use the Glidecam XR Pro and the newer Steadicam, which are much better tools. I also used gimbals a couple of times, but it's not the right tool for me. I just like to use real Steadicams. So that's it from me. I don't think that you should get this one if you are in the market for a Steadicam. Get a good one like the newer or the Glidecam ones, which are also really great. I know there are a couple of manufacturers that make these types of Steadicam. If you see this design, don't buy them. They are not worth the money. I hope this video was useful to you. I post new videos every Friday, and if you like this content, I would really appreciate if you press the like button and subscribe to my channel. I hope you have a nice day and create something extraordinary.